All right, guys, what is up? Welcome into another episode of GC Live. And Chris, we're live on platforms we've never been on before, man, other than as guests. So if you're catching us now, maybe for the first time on the Big Spur X/Twitter, on Inside the Gamecocks X/Twitter, if you're catching us on Instagram, which is something that we are sort of trying to implement. We're messing around with it a little bit, something we may continue to do in the future. Kind of an experiment right now, but if you're catching us on there as well, welcome in. And going to try to keep using all these platforms to reach as many Gamecocks as we possibly can. And appreciate JC and Jamie working with us as we kind of figure out how exactly we're going to disseminate all these shows. And welcome into you guys. We had a great group of people in the chat, I feel like, on Wednesday, Chris, as we were leading into today. And hopefully we'll have a bunch of people on here today, too, as South Carolina kicks off preseason camp day one. And so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what I think was actually a little more meat on the bone, and that was media day. Beamer spoke. All the assistant coaches were available. A bunch of players were available, pretty much most of the team, and a little bit more informal, kind of an opportunity to catch up with some of the guys and see what their summer was like. And I thought frankly, it's cool to be out there in person for practice and all that. I think we got a little bit more information from the media day, so we'll probably focus on that. But first, Chris, let's tell everybody about our presenting sponsor, our guy, Clint Hammond, clinthammond.com, 803-422-6797. His NMLS number is 71597. He is, of course, with CMG Home Loans. And as we always tell everybody, man, you may not be buying a home right now. Most of you probably aren't. But if that is a world you're looking to dive into right now, or even if that's something you're kind of financially planning the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, you want to get into a home of your own, great time to call Clint or text Clint at that number, 803-422-6797, and just come up with a plan. Like that is one of the best things about talking with Clint. He's going to lay it out for you. He's going to tell you, hey, if you're trying to buy this home at your current salary, this is how much you probably need to be budgeting for a down payment. This is how much you're going to need to budget on a monthly mortgage payment, and just tell you exactly what you're looking at. So that's what he did for me and my family, and he can do that for you as well.
And we'll also tell you about our friends over at Ferry Chevrolet before we dive back into South Carolina preseason talk. 803-937-4531 or ferrychevrolet.com. Fairey Chevrolet. Ferrychevrolet.com. Been around since 1926, and they're still led by a fourth-generation dealer in Joseph Ferry. Conveniently located to any of you who are in Columbia or Charleston or in between. They're over in Orangeburg. But if you don't want to make the trip over there yet, you can definitely check out ferrychevrolet.com. Check out their new and used inventory. Get a look at what do they have available and what are their financing options. How can they help you? May not be in the market right this second. If you are, definitely give them a call or visit their website. If you think you may be in the future, just keep them in mind. ferrychevrolet.com, 803-937-4531.
Yeah, and shout out to both of those awesome sponsors and all the sponsors that make this show possible. And shout out to you guys that are already in the chat. Let's see, we got Josh, we got Cameron, we got Fred, we got Garnet Yardbird. Some of you are being shy, so go ahead, throw your thoughts in. Man, football, I said it Wednesday, football is in the air. Just started to get the itch, guys. Started to kind of get the bug that we're actually about to be talking about some, not just football, not quite yet, but the lead up to football, where we're talking depth charts, we're talking projected guys. And Chris, I'm gonna let you. I talk too much. I'm gonna let you kick this thing off for us, man. You tell the people out there what position group or storyline you want to start with, either from practice today. Like I said, we're going to combine these two things, or media day yesterday. Some might be some overlap between the two things, but where's your head at right now, man? What is standing out to you?
Well, let me start with what I am not going to go to. And we mentioned this in the show earlier this week, Wes. Everybody's talking about when are Stewart and Pete going to be back? Spoiler, we don't know. Everybody's talking about Kendall Briles, Lenore Sellers, all that jazz. And so that's obviously worth talking about, but I feel like we have talked about it a lot and kind of run some of it into the ground. So let's go somewhere else. And I had several positions that ran through my mind. And the first one is based on a conversation I had with Mike Furry, wide receivers coach, during media day on Thursday. If you kind of bring it forward to today during practice, let's contextualize. For those that don't know, basically today in practice, we got 3 periods. So we're watching the guys in the indoor facility stretch, warm up, then out to the field. And frankly, it's a lot of drill work. We saw some kicks. We saw the O-line going through drills. We saw receivers catching short passes and working on getting upfield. It's a lot of like eyeballing guys. They're in shorts and helmets and jerseys. They're not getting to, mandatory acclimatization period. See if I can say that right. Per the NCAA before they can get there. And so short, not a lot going on yet. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll get 5 periods. We get one more practice viewing window for the media later in preseason when they will be in pads. And we'll hear some things along the way. But I do want to go with receiver. And it's not as much as what we saw today. Because frankly, aside from, hey, there's Sequel Patterson for the first time wearing 23. And some of the things that we've heard, and you're kind of eyeballing him. Yeah, smooth, he moves around. We know he's a good athlete. It was more about what Furry said. And one of the things that I wanted to ask him in that setting was, how are you going to handle this receiver rotation this year? We know, I think, a couple things about that group. Number one, we know Nick Harbor's a starter. No doubt about it. We know that there's a lot of competition in that room, and it's a combination of some older transfer guys, a DJ Black, it's returners, and then some new guys that you've added in, a Nitro Tuggle, some of the returners, even the guys that didn't factor in as much last year from that 2025 class, Alex Cyrus, a Jordan Gidron, a Malik Clark, Donovan Murph played a lot last year, Jaden Sellers. We think, maybe not know, but think that Jaden Sellers has a great shot to be another starter, which leaves, if you're talking about a 3-man set, it leaves another receiver. But I was curious, Wes, Mike Furry, is he trying to roll out, hey, we got such great competition, we're going to split it between 6 guys more? Or is it going to be more 3 or 4 guys, and then let's see who else can play? What he landed on, Wes, was, hey, I like to get guys in the game and into a rhythm. And you don't really want to, I'm kind of paraphrasing this part, disrupt that. So it seems like, at least heading into preseason camp, the approach that Furry is taking is, we want to find the guys that we can ride with as starters, and then everybody else is competing, try to get out there on the field, right? I don't think you're going to have 6 guys taking relatively equal snaps. That's just my read on it based on talking to Furry. But it's a fascinating room because you do have so many guys that seem capable, that do have talent. I think he's going to be looking for, as far as who gets on the field, who can be the most consistent during preseason camp.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of, from what I've heard, Kendall Briles' influence in there too, that I don't know necessarily that Briles wants to rotate his wide receivers, play after play after play. Now, that doesn't mean that 6 guys can't play and that you aren't going to have a depth chart and a rotation and all those things. But these tempo guys, man, they really do not like to sub unless there's already a break, right? And I think Beamer will probably downplay the tempo elements that have been added to this offense a little bit preseason, as you might expect from a head coach. But let's be honest, even if you're not in tempo all the time, this offense has been built with the foundation of tempo. Like, they can turn that thing on at any point. And a lot of these guys, man, like that's built in. So if I sub, so can my opponent. And that's not necessarily even from a personnel standpoint. Like, do I have 3 receivers on the field? Do I have 2 tight ends on the field? Do I have 2 running backs on the field? Whatever it may be. Yes, the defense is going to try to match their personnel. A lot of defenses will, based on that. But even if I'm in a 3 wide and I rotate in a different wide receiver and I'm still in 3 wide, that gives the defense and we've seen defenses play with this, right? And take advantage of the rules, right? So multiple guys are going to play. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're one of these dudes who can take hold of one of those spots, you're really going to have a lot of opportunities, I think. And I also think if you have a great week of practice and you are deemed the starter for a given week at that position, there's going to be a little pressure on you to go play and perform and to do well and to keep holding on to that spot, man, which competition is good for everybody, but it does put a little pressure on that group. And, I think Nick Harbor, he's going to be on the field, and obviously there's always the caveat we're talking about if these guys are all healthy and good to go and 100%. Nick will be on the field. I think Mazio is certainly pushing in that slot position, but if they were kicking off right now, I think Jaden Sellers is probably running out there in the slot, and it's certainly going to be one of those two guys. We'll see if Sequel can push into that mix. But, dude, if we're talking about who else is rolling out there, is it Nitro Tuggle? Is it DJ Black? Is it our guy Donovan Murph? Is it a situation where one of the dudes we're talking about in the slot is one of your best three receivers and you say, let's get Mazio on the field? I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility. Is it somebody that comes up, our guy over here, Golfing True, mentions, hey, Jaden Gibson looks like a massive kid. And he is. And I actually, to be completely honest with you guys from a transparency standpoint, I saw him walk in at media day and I said, I need to chat with him. And then I got sidetracked and I never did. And I wanted to just talk to him about where are you at in terms of how you feel in terms of 100%, 90%. Sometimes you can be healthy, but not football ready. Where are you in that? Jaden Gibson is the guy, we've talked about it, Chris, that he could play no snaps game one, or he could have the talent is there, the ability is there, the upside is there. He could go out there and all of a sudden, Chris, we could start hearing, wow, this Jaden Gibson guy has seemingly come a little bit out of nowhere and it is pushing everyone in front of him. And, people may listen and say, well, duh, you could say that about anybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the ability to do that, the upside, the talent to do that is not there for anybody. It is with this guy. And frankly, the crazy thing about this room, not that we've heard quite as much buzz about some of the other guys that we haven't mentioned, but if one of them wakes up and just says, I'm taking over, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this rotation gets flipped a little bit based on what happens over the next 4 weeks. So if I'm one of these dudes we haven't mentioned yet, if I'm Malik Clark, if I'm Lex Cyrus, if I'm Jordan Gidron, I mean, I'm never completely counting somebody out because those guys are talented as well.
Yeah. Well, and it'd be different if South Carolina had 3 senior wide receivers coming back, who were all established and had all started for South Carolina all 12 games last year. We wouldn't be having as much of this conversation, right? But, there's really one guy that's in that category, and it's Nick Harbor. Now, Jaden Sellers certainly came on last year. I think people kind of forgot, how well he played at times last year, some of the plays that he made and what he can do, even in year one. A lot of people just, that's Lenoris's brother, right? But he's a really good player if his name was Lenoris Smith or Jaden Smith. It's like he's not just Lenoris's brother. And, the competition is tight. And to your point, it can change, what it is in game one. They might get out there game one and have 3 or 4 guys that are like, we think these are our guys game one. And then if you get the opportunity to play some others against Kent State, some other guys really impress, like in a game setting, actual game setting in Williams-Brice. And, that's going to catch the attention of Mike Furry and Kendall Browse and Shane Beamer. So just a lot of competition there. I think, Wes, when you look at most of the guys that we mentioned in that room, the thing about it is you don't you don't really get the sense that the guys who are talking about, you're like, it's just not going to happen this year or maybe ever. Like, we've heard anecdotes, and there's probably levels to it, right? But we've heard anecdotes about all those guys where it's like, this guy had a really good day. This guy had a really good week. This guy does this thing really, really well. Lex Cyrus, one of the fastest guys on the team, maybe the best leaper on the team. Now, is he the best receiver? Not at this point. Is he one of the best football players? We don't know that yet. But all these guys, I think, have a chance. And so that's why I go back to who can be most consistent. They have an idea from spring. They know what everybody looked like during the summer. Now you've got these practice sessions leading up to game one. And frankly, you even have the season when it's going to be this tight of a competition for those snaps. When you get your opportunity, whether it's in practice or a game, if you perform, then you're going to give yourself a chance to see the field more. And yeah, you can say, it's that way at every position. But this one, I think a little bit more than some of the others because of how tight it's been.
Yeah, no doubt. And Josh said, what does it say that one of the high profile transfer additions, Tuggle, is flying under the radar, not being mentioned to start? I think I said Nitro, did I not? If I didn't, I certainly, Nitro is definitely in the running to start at one of those outside wide receiver spots, which appear to be a little bit, I'm sure there are certain subtle changes, but the outside spots, I feel like maybe reading between the lines are a little bit kind of interchangeable within this scheme to an extent. And then, of course, the slot guy is, just a little bit different role, a little bit different body type. Look out for Sequel Patterson there, man. Like, I think that's a guy. It's a little bit like, it's kind of like Noah Clark on the defense in the spring, where we were going, look, a freshman coming into this group with the guys returning, with the guys coming in who have played a bunch of ball. One of your takeaways from today was, hey, look at Tomiwa Durajaye. Like, kid he looks like a fifth-year player. Like, he looks like somebody who's been in the battles of college football and has worked his tail off for 5 years, and now he has 1 year of eligibility left. He physically looks that way. How is a freshman going to come in and make an impact in that room? Chris, some guys just have the it factor. Some guys are too good to be denied. Some guys, it's a slow burn. Others, it's just not. And Noah Clark is someone who it's just not been a slow burn. He's just come in and made his presence felt. It helps when you're 6'5" and 340 pounds or whatever he is, but it helps even more when you're just a great football player. So that's been Noah in the spring. It feels to me like we've heard a little bit of that buzz for Sequel in the summer once he arrived. And certainly, man, for Darius Gray, I think the Darius Gray hype is about to really take off. You're seeing, how you just see the early stages of buzz for a guy? I think everybody's going to start repeating that one. I think when inevitably the defensive linemen get asked at a player availability, hey, who on that offense has caught your eye? I just got a feeling Darius Gray is going to be one of those guys that they start to talk about. Watch out for this kid in that O-line battle. Mature, tough-nosed, well beyond his years in terms of like communication and leadership ability, has come in and crushed it. And I just don't think that Randy Clements, aka Clem, he doesn't feel like the coach that's just readily handing out great compliments on freshmen just for the fun of it. And he's had some great compliments for this kid already.
What was this quote that he gave you at Media Day? Destroyed?
Yeah, he came in and destroyed the summer workouts.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, that's a quote.
I was at Darius's commitment announcement in Richmond when he committed to South Carolina. And, first of all, this dude had big-time offers, big-time recruit. Could have played, like, we could be talking right now, and it would not be a surprise, about freshman defensive tackle Darius Gray. Like, his coach told me, high school coach up there at St. Christopher's was like, this is one of the only guys I'd ever seen who could be a power four guy at O-line or D-line. Right. But he's got big time potential on the O-line. And maybe we see some of that, to your point, Wes, in the short term. He's just got future. I would be shocked if he weren't a team captain by the time he left here or earlier, sooner than later. He's just got that personality, that it factor. And, in addition to that, that gets you to a point, Wes, but you got to also be a talented dude. Man, look at those practice jerseys. Those are slick. Those look good for those of you on the video version. But I'm glad you brought up Darius and the O-line, because that's actually where I wanted to take it next. So during the spring, there was actually for so much turnover there. New coach, new top assistant coach, Randy Clements, Jason Smith, new offensive coordinator, new scheme, and a lot of new guys, right? Shed Surratt's the only guy out there in the spring in terms of guys that were getting a lot of run with the ones, right, who had been on this roster last year. Other guys that were on the roster, I'm talking about more first-team rep guys, is transfers. And there was actually a decent amount of stability during the spring. One reason for that, Jacarius Peak was out. Josiah Thompson, as we know, is very likely to miss the entire season this year. And you had so much new. I do think throughout the spring and summer, they're trying to find, like, what is our depth like? And also, like, who are some of the starters? I think you don't know that for sure at this point. One position that remains pretty intriguing to me is center. So Carter Miller got most of the first team reps in the spring. We have consistently heard, watch out for Nolan Hay. Like, that's going to be a legit competition this preseason. Do we, Wes, throw Darius Gray in there? Because I think, I've said this when he was getting recruited, other people we've talked to think the same. This guy might be an NFL center. Now, maybe it's not center this year. Maybe he sees some reps at guard. Maybe he does see some reps at center. Maybe it's both, This is a guy that's got versatility positionally. But Randy Clements had a quote that stood out to me when I was asking him about cross-training and all these different types of things. And he said, if you got to start with who can snap the football for you, who's your center, who's your centers, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. And that's one of those things that, that's pretty obvious, right? But a lot of people kind of start on the O-line with, well, who's the left tackle? Who's your blind side protector? Yes, very important. But I think we saw last year when things go wrong at center, everything else can be right. And it's not going to go right up front, right? So you got to have your guy there, especially in the Kendall Briles offense. The center is even more important because of the tempo mechanics that they run, getting the ball spotted, making sure everybody's lined up very quickly when they do go tempo. But you got to have a few guys that you feel good about snapping. Is Darius one of those three, that you end up taking on your first SEC road trip? I think he's going to have a good opportunity. So it's time now to, take it to the field. Everything they've seen, the pads haven't even come on yet, but I'm very curious to see the early returns on him once all that gets started.
Yeah, and so that was him, number 77 we had up a second ago. Up on the video version right now is Hank Purvis, 52, transfer from Purdue. Some awesome photos today from Katie Dugan of Gamecock Central. But Chris, I don't know necessarily with Darius if my question is he one of the top 3 centers even? My question is he one of the top 8 to 10 offensive linemen on this team, period? And I think he absolutely will be. Now, he's got to go prove that. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I would have some faith in him on doing just that. And so I think that'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. And as we know, it's not always, let's say, for example, right guard gets hurt. Who is our second string right guard? It is, what's the best combination with the next best player that gets the best 5 players on the field, right? So I think Darius probably has some versatility to his game as well. That I think that's something we see with Shed Surratt. Can play pretty much anywhere on the line. And then Darius Gray, not that you like want a freshman having to cross train everywhere. But I think that ability, especially, that was the thing about Shed, you kept hearing. It's just like, man, this kid is very smart beyond his years, can pick things up quickly. Just would not be surprised if we start hearing some of those very same things about Darius Gray, as this thing moves forward. Something we'll keep an eye on. And by the way, not to completely bury it, but you were talking earlier, we're not going to go deep into the, when will Dylan Stewart, will Jakarius Peak be back? But as expected, those guys were not like full go at practice today. We did see Dylan out there, had his jersey on, but was watching, no helmet. Certainly going to kind of ease them in, which is what Beamer told us was going to be the situation. I guess on Thursday leading into Friday. So no real surprises there, and really no real news there other than that. Hey, we put eyes on Dylan. I thought noteworthy. There's our guy Dylan right there. Noteworthy. A lot of those edge guys that were banged up in the spring, and they did, some of them, I was trying to think back, man, some of them did dress out in the spring and did some things, and we still don't know. Maybe they were a little bit limited today too. We're not positive because we weren't out there for the full practice, but I did spot George Wilson, Quay Dodd. You had Kobe Saki-Pra on your show. Give me an updated official pronunciation guide on that one, Chris.
Kobe Sechi-Pra.
Okay, there you go. And I did go back and look at photos. He was dressed out too, and so your depth in that room is starting to kind of show through a little bit. Really, even in just terms of numbers, like not even necessarily like, hey, they're going to be on the field, but just numbers overall were dwindling in the spring. And man, we keep hearing, don't quite write off or forget about George Wilson possibly finding a role on this team, even if it is more along the lines of like designated pass rusher, specific situations, down, distance, game situation. And, I think before we say that for sure, I think we all need to like see, is he back to truly 100% of what he was before? Does he have that explosiveness back? We'll find out. But as someone this staff had been really excited about as a transfer last year.
Yeah, it's a good point on the depth because, you mentioned the guys, Wilson, Quay Dodd, Sechi-Pra, didn't either limited or didn't have those guys at all in the spring. And so, you'd look out there at times in the spring and go, whew, this is a little thin on the numbers. Now that gave true freshman Julian Walker first practices as a Gamecock a lot of run. It gave Anthony Addison, redshirt freshman, a lot of run. And that was positive for those guys. But at some point, you want to have that depth for practice, and you absolutely want to have it for game situations. And hopefully you can keep that room healthy. But there's a few guys that are a little bit like Kobe is a little bit of a mystery, man. When he got here from high school, very raw, didn't pick up high school until 8th grade year, high school, can't even remember which one. So still a raw player, but a lot of physical ability. And we heard last several days, Wes, in the last week or so, like, yeah, even last year as a true freshman, when he came in, he was showing some things athletically in practice before he went down with that injury that ended up keeping him out the entire year. So you want to have that depth. And Wilson is someone that does not get talked about a lot for whatever reason. And probably the reason is we just haven't seen him yet here. He got injured, was probably going to play a role last year as a third down pass rusher, designated pass rusher, DPR type of guy. Frankly, that's probably going to be more of his role this year. But is that important? Absolutely. You're looking for some solutions opposite Dylan Stewart. I think probably Caleb Herring is tracking to be your starter there, but you need some depth. You need to have the ability for Clayton White to roll out some packages, third and long situations, turn your pass rushers loose. Who are your best interior pass rushers? Who are your best guys on the edge? And George Wilson, I think, has an opportunity to be in that conversation. So, yeah, that's one thing we noticed from the spring. Like, they had some guys out or limited, and this team is getting healthier, and they absolutely need to stay healthy. That, talk about keys to the season. You got to stay healthy at some key spots, and you don't want to dip into your depth too much. If this team can stay healthy, this is a more experienced team. I think it's a deeper team than last year, but you have to make that count by staying healthy. Some of that's just football, and the way that it shakes out.
That was one of my takeaways from the press conference on Thursday as well. Beamer talking about, they had some guys back last year who certainly had played ball. It's not like they were completely inexperienced, but really only 4 true seniors on last year's team. You look at the potential depth chart for this year, the potential starting 22, you are going to have a bunch of seniors, a bunch of upperclassmen, at least how you would project it right now on the field, which, could be a difference maker for Carolina. Want to dive into that just a little bit. But Chris, before we do, want to tell everybody about Rytech and our friends at ATSCO.
Yeah, let's tell everybody about our friends over at Rytech Electric. That is rytechelectric.com. Founded back in 2007 by our guy, Steven. The thing that I really like about Rytech, who serves all around the Midlands, are located in Lexington, but they can help you out wherever you are, is when they send somebody to your home or your business to quote an electrical job for you, they're going to send out someone to actually perform that work who is a direct Rytech employee. No bait and switch. Hey, we're sending this crew out. You have no idea who they are. They're going to send you Rytech employees. They're not subcontracting it out. They're going to tell you the price before they touch a single wire, so everything's super transparent. And they have a guarantee. They back every repair with a 1-year parts and labor guarantee. So flickering lights, dead outlets, tripping breakers, panel upgrades, anything electrical in your home or at your business, you can give them a call, 803-303-8274, and a real person picks up. That's Rytech Electric. They're a proud sponsor of GamecockCentral.com. And we want to tell the people about ATSCO as well, Wes. ATSKO.com. That's where you need to go. Here's the short version about ATSCO. If you haven't heard about them, or if you've heard us talk about them on the show, you're like, I've heard about ATSCO. I hadn't really checked them out. Go check out their website, ATSKO.com. Basically, if you're an outdoorsman or an outdoors woman, you need to go check out ATSCO because they have a variety of hunting, waterproofing, outdoor gear. They've even got products, the CareTex line of products for your pets. They got specialized laundry detergents for hunters, outdoor gear, odor control, UV control, the Zero brand line of products, and then footwear, clothing, and outdoor gear, including waterproof products. So if you're an outdoors person, if you like to go hunting, if you like to go fishing, camping, go check out ATSCO. They've been around since 1933, so they're doing something right. ATSKO.com. Go check them out today.
Awesome, man. Shout out to both of those amazing companies and helping make this show possible here on all the various podcast platforms and right here on YouTube as well. Chris, I think that's been a big topic for Beamer, going back to what we were talking about a moment ago. All off season is just trying to get older and trying to be a little bit more of a veteran team. I think maybe even reported at the end of last year or even maybe before that a big focus for Carolina, there was kind of this plan that I think Beamer, and he's been pretty open about this, even before last year was over, they started diving into like what has gone wrong? What can we do to try to win some of these close games, to fix what I think we all maybe think is a little bit of a lack of enough leadership. Not that you didn't have guys who were leaders. That's not fair to some of the guys who were great leaders. There just weren't enough of those guys last year. And so a big part of it was to go out in the portal to get experience. Phil still has South Carolina with his experience chart as literally the most experienced team in the SEC. And, that's not all, as we know, it's not all snaps at South Carolina. That is including snaps schools from all over the country, right? But it just goes to show you these guys have played ball at various levels in various schools. And, Beamer, we had heard him talk about that, but I think this was the first time I'd heard that kind of little note of, look, there were like 4 true seniors last year. This year, as it projects, it's going to be you're going to have some freshmen mixing in and playing and pushing, but at least as we look at it right now, it's going to be a much older group. And man, maybe no spot is it more evident of that than on the offensive line and on the interior of the defensive line. Like, you and I were watching that group, and the eye test sometimes can be deceiving. So let's acknowledge that. But I've seen, especially going back, Chris, and I'm not going to say any names, there were some times over the years, you can go even all the way back to the especially early Spurrier era. The Gamecocks defensive line just did not look like an SEC defensive line. Like that, there were times. Dude, you look at this group that Travian Robertson has helped put together and now has to work with. It is physically one of the best looking interior defensive lines in terms of guy after guy after guy looking that like they can help that they've maybe ever had since we've been doing this stuff. Now, granted, defensive linemen have gotten bigger and stronger and faster and quicker over the years anyway, but relative to what your competition is going to look like. I mean, Noah Clark on some of those prior teams would already be penciled into the starting lineup. Let's put it like that. And now we were watching Christian Ingram and Caleb Williams today, man. Two guys are kind of just people aren't talking about right now because of the some of the other guys in that room. They look the part physically too, man. Like this is a outstanding look test group. And I got to say, talking to Travian Robertson at Media Day yesterday, it was like talking to a new school Brad Lawing, because Travian, his message to me and directly to his guys was basically, I don't care how talented you are. He knows he said they've got it. They all have some special traits. Everybody knows that. Travian knows that. He said, I don't care about talent. He said, talent does not win games, which I thought was a pretty strong quote in and of itself. A very direct, talent does not win games. He said, now, if these guys mesh together over the next month and put it all together and play as a team and are willing to not only put themselves in a position to succeed, but do the little things that are team oriented to make the team succeed. You could tell he's excited about the group, but you could tell he didn't want anybody to feel like they've arrived yet. He doesn't enjoy the talk. He said all this is fluff. It's time to go play football.
That is definitely a Brad Lawing-esque. And no surprise, right? I mean, recruited by him, played under him, coached under him, all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, and that's the thing, man. Like, so Shane Beamer has publicly drawn some comparisons to the depth of the 2024 group. And they're different players. Like, there's some different body types and skill sets. But the reason that group was so good is they were talented, they were experienced, they did the little things and played well together. They also had some depth, right? Going into that season, we felt pretty good about the defensive tackle room, but that wouldn't have meant anything if they went out there and just kind of coasted, didn't try hard, didn't play, didn't gel together. So Travian has a good point. Like, all this is on paper right now. Now, one part of it, though, is, do you have it on paper? If we were going in saying, I don't know, Carolina's got maybe one SEC caliber starter and then some guys, you got a problem. You know, it's good. I say a lot, it's hard to scrap your way to a championship. You know, like, you have to be you got to be, the best teams are very talented, but they also mix that mentality of being a scrappy team. They're tough, they're experienced, and they mix that with talent, you know, and that's kind of what that 2024 team did. You know, that team started 3-3. They flipped the switch. They turned it around. They were talented enough and had enough leadership to do that. And so you hope this group gets off to a better start than 3-3, obviously. But to get where you want to go, you got to make that talent matter. But South Carolina does have it. You know, they've got a lot of different body types. You know, you mentioned Ingram. Like, Ingram and Caleb Williams, with where the room is, I mean, if I had to guess, probably not playing a lot this year. But Ingram's 6'6", 300. Caleb Williams is 6'5", looks 6'6", almost 290. Jordan Thomas came from Georgia. Georgia is probably ticked off that they didn't get Noah Clark, or should have pushed for him harder, because he looks like a great fit for what they do. You got guys like that, but then you've got Kelby Collins, who's kind of a versatile 3-technique type. You've got, Gabe Brownlow-Dindy, who's your prototypical 3-technique. You've got, Tomiwa, who I pointed out to you today, looks great and has played a lot of ball and is a fifth-year guy. So a lot of different body types and a mix of like emerging guys and then some guys that have kind of been there, done that in that D tackle room.
You mentioned the new uniforms for practice. I've been posting some of the photos. I'm about to post another one on our video version, and I'm sure those of you listening maybe seen it online somewhere. But that was kind of just a side question I had was, hey, how different do the practice uniforms look in terms of Nike? And I think they're pretty slick, man.
They look really good. Yeah. Look really, really good. And I think you brought this up on the radio show earlier. They're not going to look like this forever. Like, yeah, they wash them and all that. They'll probably have a little bit of wear and tear, but they're definitely slick. I like I love the white look. I mean, they all look good. You had Garnett for the quarterbacks. I thought a really, really good look.
I heard a great line earlier this week, Chris, about South Carolina moving to Nike. And I know some people don't care about that. Some people care a lot about it. But I thought this summed it up perfectly. You don't go to a bar and order a Jack and Pepsi. You order a Jack and Coke. And Nike is pretty much in this field is Coke. It's the standard. So I thought that was like just a perfect way to sum it up. By the way, as we get off the jersey topic, that you were seeing on your screen, my friends, is Jaden Gibson, who we probably have undersold in terms of news from today, because he was not on the field in the spring. And as you see right now, he is dressed out. He is out there running around this morning, not in pads yet, but Chris, I mean, we get too caught up with wide receivers and how they look physically. It doesn't mean a ton at the receiver position, but you can see why South Carolina was intrigued. Kind of took a little bit of a flyer on a guy who has dealt with, injuries at Oklahoma and brought this guy in.
Yeah. You look back at Jaden Gibson, someone that South Carolina recruited out of high school. He goes to Oklahoma, and his 2023 season as a true freshman, like, you can go back and watch that tape and you're like, man, this kid has some ability. I mean, he's a big, long, looks like a giraffe. He's 6'5", running around out there and got a lot of ability. But again, just like the injuries and all that stuff, just haven't seen him, and kind of gets forgotten, because, I mean, we went through the receiver room earlier and you did mention Jaden Gibson, of course, talked about him a little bit earlier, but a lot of the other guys, and rightfully so, are getting more of the attention and more of the headlines, but it's easy to forget, like, yeah, he's in there, and so what do we hear during preseason about how he's performing? You mentioned like football, like the health, not just in terms of like, are you injured or not, right? But the football shape, the conditioning, all that stuff. Where is he at there? What do we hear about him, if anything, throughout the preseason in terms of how he's performing in a receiver room that, again, to reiterate, is pretty crowded? I think that's going to be interesting to see. You're muted, Wes.
About to say a word I shouldn't say. I have not done that.
It's been a long time on that
in
for you.
5 years.
5 years.
I've not done that in 5 years. I'm gonna do like Chris and make an excuse.
Yes.
I was trying to pull up a photo because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I wasn't actually looking at the screen, which I should have been, so I didn't see that we were muted. So I am going to answer this question with a photo. And this will also give people a little look back at comparing the Nike jerseys to the old Under Armour jerseys, because this is a picture from spring. And so the question is, who's the biggest human being in the DT room? Not on paper, but who you saw with your own eyes. And that's still got to be the answer, right, Chris?
Look at Beamer's face.
That's Noah Clark.
Beamer's like, this is a big human. Yeah, Noah Clark is massive.
Although, Chris, Jordan Thomas is also way bigger than anybody realizes.
Woo.
I've been beating that drum. This dude looks mean on the field. Massive dude. If he was standing beside anyone except Noah Clark, he might be the biggest one in the group.
Yeah, he would be. I mean, you know, Jordan's 6'5", 315, so he's a house. But Noah Clark is 6'5". Let's see what they list him at. 6'5", 345. And here's the thing, like Noah, like he still looks like a baby, like he's got the baby face. And he's athletic, like he's in shape. Caused some problems this spring for the O-line. Like, whoo. I mean, you brought this up before. Like, he was a highly rated guy, had good offers, but you know, he's got to go do it on the field. But just like the early buzz, you get the sense like this guy's going to end up outplaying his ranking at the end of the day. Like he's been impressive so far.
Yeah, well, I think, dude, when you're 6'5", 340, 345, whatever that is, there's this sense of, okay, he's big, he's strong, he's bigger than everybody he plays in high school by a pretty wide margin. I think there's this sense of most of those guys, like the number of people that are that big and can play football, it's a very small number, right? Well, then it's even chop off 90% of those guys. So maybe 10% of the ones that are that big and can play football and are strong are also as athletic as this kid. Not like, I think there's just until you see it, there's a sense of, oh, if they're that big, they're probably just a space eater, which there's a role for, but you're maybe not prioritizing quite as much or creating as much buzz with that. With Noah, I think what makes him just super special is he is big, like nose guard, zero tech sized, but he can actually still go rush the passer. I mean, there is, and people will roll their eyes at this, and that's fine. I don't really care anymore. There's some like Dexter Lawrence kind of qualities here, I think, just in terms of the size and athleticism combination that, again, to your point, we need to see it in games. We need to see it against opponents. We're very much in like the projection stage, but part of right now, in my opinion, in our seat is, hey, who can we project to impact this team that you guys as fans need to be paying attention to? And, you know, I think early on, certainly Noah Clark is on that list. I think you can kind of go through. Noah Clark's on the list. Julian Walker is on the list. Jazavian Currents is certainly on the list. Darius Gray is now on the list. Sequel Patterson is possibly on the list. And, you know, and then I think there's some guys that you're just looking at saying, yeah, maybe, maybe not, in terms of true freshmen, like a Cassie Barnes. Can he step in there and play a bunch for South Carolina? You know, we shall see. Trying to go through the freshman class in my head. Those are probably the main ones I think you can be looking at to possibly make an impact, and some of them even a big impact, Chris. But transfers, we'd be here all day if we listed, because there's a lot of transfers that I think are going to be, you know, a big part of what this team does. We got to see some kickers today, Chris. Let's close out with that. I'm not taking a thing away from watching. They kind of had some like two ball going almost. I don't know if special teams people call it that, but they had an entire unit lined up to kick. They had an entire other unit lined up to kick, and they were just rotating back and forth, get a lot of reps. I'll say this, man, I kind of forgot how big of a kid Max Kelly is. Um, he's a tall, just sort of physical looking kicker. And, you know, it's going to be about who puts the ball through the uprights. But I will say this, I thought the ball kind of jumps off of Max's foot a little bit. There's a little bit of just easiness in how the ball comes off his foot. So that was really my only takeaway of that. I didn't want to. You see these NFL training camps and stuff, man. People are out there like giving stats on stuff against air. Like, they hit 3 and missed 2. Like, we're out there for such a short amount of time that I don't think you can even be fair to the guys if you try to chart it. But that was my one. That's my one take on the kickers.
Yeah, we saw 3 of them. And I agree with you on Kelly. Like, sounds a little different sometimes when he strikes the ball. I remember Jody Camillus talking about last year about Kelly and just how, like, this guy's a really good athlete, and I think for them it was trying to, like, he's got the leg strength, he's a good athlete, but just trying to flip that over to being a really good kicker, like really good place kicker, and kind of converting that athleticism to consistency. And that's what it's going to be all about. Like, who's most consistent? We saw Kelly. We saw Malik Orson, who joined the team this summer as another transfer, and then Upton Bellinfant. Of course, we saw him as well. And, hard to take away anything, kind of see what do we see, what do we hear, probably more importantly, throughout the preseason. And for what it's worth, Wes, Holder scoop. Yes, I know. Brace yourself.
No, they got to subscribe for this.
Yeah. No. I'm going to give it to him.
25% off right now. Gamecock Central, $30 for a year.
75% off.
What did I say?
25.
Oh, God.
You pay 25% of the normal rate.
Yeah. All right.
Off.
Edit me, man. It's been a while. It's been a long week. It's been great, but it's been a long week. 75% off Gamecock Central. $30 a year is what that math is. $2 and some cents per month is what that math is. And Chris Clark will tell you all about long snapper scoop on Gamecock Central, except he's going to tell you right here, right now.
Well, I think what we should do, I'll tell you, you got to promise to subscribe. Honor system. If you're not, and a lot of people in here are already subscribers, so we appreciate it.
I got Jeff as a subscriber, by the
way. Thank you, Jeff. Mason Love and Cutter Woods. Those are the 2 holders today. I know that's the type of stuff y'all pay for.
You heard it here second.
Yeah, that's right. In seriousness, we do have a lot of stuff up, so you should come check us out. That deal, Wes, is not available forever, I don't think.
No, I don't remember the date, so I'm not going to say it, but
I don't know when it is. So
it's very soon.
You should probably go check it out to make sure you get in on it.
Yes, come on over. The water is fine. Man, David on Facebook, we had this argument going on the Insiders Forum too. Shane Beamer never promised the playoffs. At no point did Shane Beamer promise the playoffs. So, guys, it just didn't happen. He did predict that South Carolina will be in the conversation for the college football playoff. That did happen. Much like they were in 2024. But that's what he said. He did not guarantee or promise that South Carolina make the playoff. There's a very distinct difference between those two. Or if there wasn't a difference, we wouldn't be talking about them missing the playoffs in 2024. We would say that was the same thing as making the playoffs. So he said that they would be in the conversation at the end of the year for the playoff. So just want to get that out of the way. What have we not hit, man? I feel like there's got to be It's got to be a little bit more. There's a lot on Gamecock Central right now for people to read, but we've got 5 minutes left. What have we forgotten, Chris?
I mean, we haven't talked about several things. Running backs, West, we didn't get to see a whole heck of a lot. Day one.
Yeah, no.
Nothing there. Tight ends, didn't get to see a whole heck of a lot. This might not be a great answer, but we might.
We didn't cover it all. Don't say we covered it all.
We didn't cover it all.
No. Hey, there's been some Brady Hunt buzz.
Yes.
This summer.
Oh, Brady Hunt buzz.
I thought Brady looked like a veteran, if that makes sense.
It does. I think healthiest he's been. Yeah, healthiest he's been last year. I think a guy that is experienced that the staff has trusted, but also like not tapped out going into this preseason in terms of like taking a little bit more of a next step, like a final step in his career. And so that'd certainly be big. They've got some experience in that room. Him, Maurice Brown, Mike Tyler coming along. Add Max Drag as a transfer. Caden Ramsey West looked really good as a freshman. Again, I'd be shocked if he factors in heavily this year, but a big 6'5" guy who played receiver in high school and had 14 picks in 1 year in high school. Good athlete,
which is absurd.
It's absurd for anybody, but big 6'5" guy out there. So, yeah,
we covered it all. You're saying?
I'm not saying that. You said that. I didn't say that.
Okay, we'll be back out there tomorrow. By the way, we got What is it? 5 segments? Is that right? 5.
We got 5 tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Exciting.
Let's see. Let's get one more question from our guy Morgan. We haven't watched him play a game yet. Sorry, I lost it. Is it potentially the most talented class Beamer has signed? Potential is a scary word. I would say potentially yes, Morgan. I don't know if that's a prediction I'd want to be held to yet. But a lot of these guys have resumes already, And I'm assuming he's kind of talking about like the transfer. I mean, the whole class, but a lot of the transfers, I think is what he's kind of talking about. I don't know, dude. The 24 group, so 23 to 24, like kind of off season that played in 24. There was some talent in that group, man.
Yeah, big time. Well, and the fact that there's been some comparisons to that, some of the guys like Lenore Sellers was in that group as a freshman, coming in, as a redshirt freshman, and then you had a bunch of transfers. But like the fact that you've got some of those guys back like older, and then you've got some transfers that are drawing like some comparisons in terms of talent, experience level to that group. That's a good thing. Now that group didn't end up getting quite to where they wanted to go, but they were dang close and a lot closer than last year, right? So what type of conversation you want to be having? Where do you want to be at the end of the season? You want to be in range, for the playoff. And so we don't know yet if they'll be there, but, I think there's some reasons to feel encouraged about the way that the offseason had shaped up in terms of personnel retention, personnel adding, and then the coaching changes, obviously, that were made before last year or after last year.
Yeah. Coleman, I doubt we'll be on live tomorrow, but we will have practice tomorrow. We'll be out there for 5 segments. We'll have a reaction on Gamecock Central of that. I think we might be back on, I don't know, Chris, might be worth it to go ahead and do a show on Monday afternoon. I know we haven't talked about it, but if we can make that happen, we'll make it happen. Let's close out with one more question. And I was trying to think of the answer to this, dude. Who is the most jacked player on the team in terms of pure muscle? First guy off the bus.
Man, I'm about to think on that for a minute. Gosh, is Julian Walker one of the guys? So here, Julian Walker might be up there. I feel like J.R. Johnson might have to go in that category.
J.R. Johnson,
6'3", 240, rocked up.
Dude, Nick Harbor has a little bit of the first off the bus to him. He's just so tall and physically impressive. Let me give you a sleeper for this.
Okay.
Maybe not first off the bus because he's not super tall, but Matt Fuller is an impressive looking dude.
Yeah.
In terms of just being physically like muscular.
I think Cassie Barnes would be in there. You know, now he's a DB, you know, but if you're like, here's our DBs, Cassie Barnes looks pretty good. So I'd submit him too. There's a few guys in there, I would say.
I'm gonna ban myself from mentioning him for a while, but Jordan Thomas.
Yeah. Well, I almost said him. Yeah. I mean, that's very fair.
If I had to pick some guys, like I was about to get jumped, like Jordan Thomas is someone I feel like you want on your side. Like he's just that physically imposing. Absolutely. I think is the best way to say it. So, all right, hey, that's an hour on the dot. So we're gonna get out of here and get back to some GamecockCentral.com content, and then, like I said, we'll be back out there Saturday morning for fall practice, preseason practice, training camp, whatever you want to call it. Day 2. Looking forward to that. Thank you guys for joining us here on multiple platforms here on Gamecock Central. If you're just joining us, you can always go back and watch from the beginning on YouTube, or this will be posted on all the major podcast platforms. For Chris, for Wes, for all of our awesome sponsors, you guys have a great one, and we'll see you very, very soon.